Bubbles, diesen Punkten gerutscht ist und so. Das war also auch und auch sehr verständlich. Also ich bin echt kein verständiger Mensch in der Richtung, aber ich bin halt trotzdem gut mitgekommen. Irgendwie hatte ich so das Gefühl und ja, danke.
Ja, genau. Ich fand es auch gut, ein guter Einstieg quasi, dass man mal erstmal so eine Grundlage hat, gegebenenfalls auch für Diskussionen, die dann auf der Straße oder sonst wo kommen. Ja, genau. Ich denke, das ist schon hilfreich.
Gut. Wollte sonst noch jemand? Ja, vielen Dank für die Rückmeldung. Genau, ich gebe gerne auch weitere Workshops, gerne auch für einzelne Gruppen, also falls ihr in eurer Ortsgruppe oder so dann noch mal was machen wollt, genau, kommen dann auch gerne, reise auch gerne, es muss nicht alles digital sein. Ja, zum Abschluss habe ich mir gedacht, kann ich euch noch einmal einen Ohrwurm verpassen und wir können einmal gemeinsam tanzen. Es geht tatsächlich um die Frage, was passiert, wenn die Katastrophe unausweichlich ist oder unausweichlich scheint. Was macht man dann mit der Zeit? Ich denke, ihr werdet das Lied alle kennen. In den 80er Jahren war so eine ähnliche Stimmung wie in Teilen heutzutage, heutzutage ist ja die Krisenstimmung, die Katastrophenstimmung auf die Klimakatastrophe bezogen. Damals war es auf die Atomkraft, auf die Überrüstung, genau. Und dieses Lied, was ihr bestimmt kennt, ist 1984 entstanden, also praktisch vor Tschernobyl. Viel Spaß. Genau, also das ist tatsächlich ein Anti-Atom-Lied. Genau, damit wollte ich euch jetzt einmal noch zum Ende beglücken. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören, vielen Dank fürs schöne Festival und ja, bis demnächst.
Yeah, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So now we can start with the talk from Mayank. Or how do you pronounce your name? Maybe you can help. It would be great.
It was perfect. Your pronunciation was on the dot. Okay. My name is Mayank Gandhi, and I am from India, Mumbai. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak to all of you. We are today talking in the times of the pandemic of Corona. If you look at the scale, Corona is going to be temporary and maybe end up in 800,000 deaths. But the climate and ecological challenge that we have is going to be far bigger than that. So our eye should not go away from the main struggle, the main fight, the main transformation that we have to do to climate and ecology. A pandemic is a blip which will happen and go away with whatever the cost may be. But the real fight has got to be with the climate crisis, which is the elephant in the room. Just to give you a perspective, India is 1.3 billion population, 3 times the population of EU. And the impact on India, especially because of the amount of poor people that live here, is going to be much bigger than what you can imagine or what is going to happen in countries of EU or even in USA. India is going to be the biggest impact of climate, and we are already seeing it. Year after year, we are seeing floods, drought, all kind of disasters, calamities, and deaths after deaths. So we need to keep our eye focused on this climate and ecological crisis. We cannot afford to take it away into a pandemic or things like that. That is also happening side by side. And really what we are trying to treat are symptoms when there is a far deeper. So what we are doing really is putting a band-aid when there is a cancer within the body. So how do you heal that cancer? That is the challenge before us, not the symptomatic things that we are, most of the countries and most of the organizations are doing. And one of the things that I wanted to give an Indian perspective, that India used to be a country in which there are a lot of Hindu followers, and the worldview of Hinduism, and then it subsequently became the worldview of India, was of non-dualism, that we are one with nature, we are one with others, we are one with animals, we are one with everything, the birds, the trees, the insects. And in the 17th century, slowly the dualism started creeping in, and the Western world started looking at human as different from nature, human is different from, and then it got perverted to saying that humans would exploit nature for their own benefit. So a lot of advantages have taken place with technology and new things coming in. But the major thing that has happened is we have got distance from nature, from what was actually part of us. And now we have started looking at it very separately. So there is got to be a main shift, a paradigm shift in the way we look at ecology, the way we look at climate, the way we look at nature, the way we look at other being and living and non-living beings. Unless we start changing our perspective and seeing it from the prism of love, too little is going to change. We are all agitating and we are all angry with something or the other, with the government, with other people, with people who are trying to take away our things. I think there is to be a paradigm shift from that anger to love. And that is one of the messages that I bring to you from India. If you look at India and if you Google it and you check, you would find that Indians are probably one of the most eco-friendly practices that we do. Especially in the villages, what has happened is everything is, the amount of trash that we take out per head is the lowest in the world. So all practices that we do are eco-friendly. This is where the whole tradition came from. But slowly, as urbanization started taking, as Western influences started coming, we are getting more and more like Western countries and getting less eco-friendly, less climate-friendly. And there is a need to shift from there. So like Niti Aayog says that this year, 21 cities in India are going to have shortage of water. So to my mind, we need to fight this climate crisis. And I think the easiest, the cheapest and the best method to fight this climate crisis, this eco crisis, is to do a mass plantation of trees. And I have selected in India right now 4,000 villages in a place called Marathwada, where there are highest number of farmer suicides, where there have been 5 droughts in the last 8 years, where the whole area is barren. And we have gone to the farmers and told them, listen, there is so much poverty. I was just looking at the figures. A family of 5 would have a monthly income of 40 euros. So that is the level of poverty. When we went there to work, we saw their eyes were soulless and they were living because they were not yet dead. That is what happens when we don't nourish our environment, our land, our soil, our water. And there have been all rivers are empty. There is complete desolate area. And we went there 4 years back and we started working earlier with 15 villages, then 106 villages, and now with around 4,000 villages. And after working with them, gaining their confidence, we started working on water conservation. We made 170-kilometer river. We made 162 ponds, 52 dams. So we started working on water because we realized that water is the enabler. If we don't have water, we will not be able to fight the climate crisis. Of course, water is a component of climate issue, but we did not think water was the end product. Water was an enabler. And last year, we talked to the farmers and told them, listen, you have these very meager income. You are not earning enough. Why don't you change to fruit trees? And I must tell you that the income that they were getting per acre in their land was 235 euros per year. And we suggested to them to change their crop to fruit trees. Because if you grow fruit trees, obviously there's going to be far more oxygen. Your global temperature is going to go down. The greenery will attract more rains. The topsoil will be held properly. Your water will seep down to the aquifers, to the roots, and the biomass that will fall due to the leaves will enrich the soil. And more important than all of that is the fact that because they are fruit trees, microorganisms, insects, birds, animals, humans, all of them will be fed. So with one thing that we were doing, not only were we changing the lives of the farmer, because due to these fruit trees, where they were earning, I told you, 235 euros, now they are earning at least 10 to 20 times more income. So it has brought in money in the house, the family is doing better, the community, the village, everyone's doing better. There will be small industries which will be set up, processing plants will be done. So really what you are doing is you are changing the lives of the farmer and their families. You are improving the economy of the country, and most importantly, you are planting such large number of trees that it impacts the climate. So this is a constructive model that we have worked out, and now that we are working, we had planted 1.2 million trees last year. This year we intend to plant 3 million trees, and next year we will go up to 6 or 7 million trees. So we are creating a model for rejuvenation of Mother Earth in India. And we want to scale it up, we want to replicate it, and not just that, we want to bring it as a policy of the country, and we create the policy, we create task forces to ensure that more and more trees are grown. I understand the various concerns that we can do about plastic, about so many things, but to me, this is a single point agenda which has the potential to change the economy of the country, the lives of the poor, and very importantly, fight the climate crisis that is impeding on us. I wanted to also share with you a couple of things which are typically Indian. I do not know whether you are aware of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi fought the British and got independence. But when he came to India from South Africa in 1919, people were telling him, come on, join the fight against the British. We will teach you how to fight. Gandhi said, no, I do not wish to fight now. Let me first go and travel into the countryside, go to the villages, try to understand them. And for 3 years, he traveled all over the country and he understood the soul of the nation. He understood the ethos of the nation. At that time, if he had started fighting, or he would have got some global consultant, what is it that they would have taught? They would have taught him how to kill more, how to have better bullets, how to have better armory, how to have guerrilla tactics to fight. Instead, Gandhi went back to the villages, to the soul and the ethos of this nation, and he created weapons. A weapon called non-violence, a weapon called insistence on truth, a weapon called renunciation. He stopped wearing a shirt all his life and he renunciated. He said, the poor of my country cannot afford clothes, so I cannot be wearing so many clothes. I should remove. And he lived his whole life without wearing the top coat even in the cold. So I am saying this is an amazing way to fight. And the British left. They had to quit India because of this kind of a sacrifice, fighting for the others without raising one's hand. And I am sure the way XR is fighting, the way FFF is fighting, is taking the leaf out of non-violence, out of insistence on truth. Sometimes we do compromise on insistence of truth to make it, to exaggerate the issue, to make it into a big issue. But my request to my XR friends, to my FFF friends is, you're doing an outstanding job. You don't need to exaggerate. You don't need to hyperbole. You need to keep on saying underplay it, because the problem is far bigger. Even if you underplay, the problem will reach every heart of this world. And I appreciate the way you are fighting. And from India, there is a team which is doing it. I am working with them. I will continue to work with them. If there's anything that you would like us to do, I will be very happy to take this fight forward, because there is a need to fight for the betterment of this globe. Thank you. Jacqueline?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Right. So I think there is still some time, and maybe I could talk a bit about our villages. I was an urban man, and I used to be an urban planner and give consultancy to various countries, Spain, France, US, UK, etc. But when I went to the villages, because I was a consultant, and every consultant thinks that he knows everything. So when we went there and we spoke to the villages, we realized that urban people do not understand the earth, the problems of the earth. And we started working very closely with the poorest farmers. And we started unlearning whatever we had learned and started learning new things. And at that time, I started understanding that the challenges that are faced by the Indian farmers are so many, whether it is climate, whether it is weather, whether it is soil, whether it is water, whether it is insects, whether it is fog. So, I mean, I used to laugh and say that if I was a farmer, I would have got 10 heart attacks by now. And I can understand farmers going and standing in queues opposite the temples, because they understand that only God can save us. So it's a very tough life there. But in spite of that, there is so much resilience and understanding of nature. When I go there, they look at the clouds and tell me it is not going to rain for the next 6 days. And they are always on the dot. So they live a life in harmony with nature. So I think that entire model of being one with nature is something that humanity needs to grasp. Going on a cycle tour, going for 3 days on a camp is not going to help. One has to start living life with nature. If one can do that, I think we will fight the climate crisis. The entire globe can come together and fight it in all ways, through non-violent means, through confrontation, through constructive, through destructive action. So all of them together will need to come together to ensure that the policymakers, the people at top who are destroying the nature and who are taking precedence of economy and income over nature and over things like that have to be fought, and we will all fight it together. Thank you. I finished what I had to say. If any questions are there, I would be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you very much. So all of you, if you like, you can post your question into the chat, or whether you're familiar with, you can also open your mic and post the question. And yeah. Kerstin, do you want to say something?
Yes, first of all, thank you. Thank you a lot for being here and telling us about your work, and thanks for the work you're doing. My question is, are you supported by the politicians in India, and are they aware of the crisis, and are they willing to act?
I'm an independent organization which works for not-for-profit. I have no relation with politicians. But because politics also runs on policies are made by politicians, I try to influence them as much as possible. But they have their own agenda and they have their own priorities. So it is a very difficult task to keep on pushing, and which is the reason why we need to create a proof of concept and go and meet the top decision makers to make them understand that there is another way to live life, there is another way for development, there is another way for progress. And development and environment need not be at cross purposes. There can be a win-win solution for both. So it's a uphill task, but the only way that we can convince them is by showing them results, showing them outcome. Just by talking, we are not able to do things. So I am not associated personally, or my organization has got nothing to do with politics. I was a politician many years back where we started a movement against corruption called India Against Corruption. But one of our philosophers said that there are two paths, one towards poverty and one towards richness. And I believe the path towards poverty goes through politics. And I did not want to live a life of poverty, fighting every day, scrapping every day, making allegations and facing allegations. So I quit politics in 2015. So I have no political ambitions, no political connections.
Yeah, thank you. Are there still another question in this room? Maybe.
I have also a question, yeah.
Yeah, go on, please.
Greetings to India. For sure, it's great. Yeah, my approach is that we only could fight against this global catastrophe globally together, and that we have to overcome all what separates us. And even I'm very convinced if we don't get out of this monetary world system, which keeps this extreme international competition, Americans against India, from India or Europe or China, all in an extreme monetary competition, nobody can step back there. So if we don't dissolve this situation, this complex, this one financial construction, we won't make it to fight against the catastrophe. And what we have to do is to lower down the industry on the very essential, and to give up all industries what we don't need, in, for example, military industries at all, and completely to give them up. And how now we have, in my opinion, the last chance is to prepare the networks in a way that we can cope and reorganize the world with the power of voluntariness. And how could this be implemented for the poorer regions? And there's also to add the poor people. 4.7 billion people don't have anything to do with this catastrophe. Only 3 billion people, and from there only 1 billion people are mainly responsible for this catastrophe. They have to change their lifestyle as well. But yeah, and how could the poor people to be connected in this global fallback level and or salvation project?
Thank you. I think the poor are the most affected, and we need to get their buy-in into this whole model. I can only give examples of Gandhi. Gandhi, when he was fighting the British, was able to rally the entire country together, and there used to be something called strikes where people would just sit on the roads and not allow anything to move, close down the stores, and put so much intense pressure on the policymakers that they had to bow down, even though they were foreign powers and they were very powerful people. So the power of truth, the power of simplicity, the power of non-violence needs to go across. And I would think, and very importantly, Gandhi used to go on fast to death for some of the things. And I believe that if the whole world comes together, the XR and work for a few months, prepare, and one day can be a huge global strike, and everyone stays hungry and puts pressure and sits in on the fast on the road. If we can do that, that will have a turning point. That can be the single point which can stop this catastrophe. It has to be brought in the eyes of the people, because most of them are living their daily lives. They are struggling, they are fighting, they are not understanding the implications of how this climate can affect them. And it has to be brought to the notice of the people more than the decision makers. And for that, there has to be a non-violent, huge movement across countries, across cities, and it should be done in a very dramatic manner so that it impacts. I see what XR is doing, but I think that needs to be scaled up in a much, much bigger way. And by fasting, you cleanse yourself, you put the other person into blame, you create a lot of sympathy for that. So my suggestion would be for a day or more, the whole world, everyone should come on the road and fast for a day, and with folded hands tell the world that this needs to be done, otherwise we are in deep trouble. So that is the kind of movement that needs to come in from my perspective. Forgive me if I am giving too much advice, because but I have gone through that. We have created one of the largest movements in India, or maybe in the world, called the India Against Corruption movement, where we have gone on the roads and hundreds and thousands of people have come together and created a movement of proportion that the Time magazine had run the whole cover story on our movement. So this is the kind of movement that is needed, not just in India, not just in Germany, but across the globe.
Yeah, thank you. We got a question in the chat from Rob. He asked, do you think non-violence is more difficult in a democracy?
I do not think it is more difficult in a democracy, because if there is violence, then the party in power, the police, they all get the liberty to hit you back. They can be far more violent than you can. And the general public, whose sympathy, whose support you want, will get cut off from you if you are violent. Then they will say both of them deserve each other. But if you are non-violent, then you are the party which is talking the truth. And the party which is violent, which is the government, the police, the army, they will be caught as villains, and you will be caught as the victims of the people who are fighting. People will support anyone who is fighting non-violently without a selfish interest, rather than, because if you are violent, you will go and burn a bus, you may kill a few people, but the force that will come against you will be too much. So even tactically, non-violence is a far better idea, more than violence, much more than violence. Your violence will get you attention, but your violence will cannot continue a movement for a long time.
Yes, thank you. Olaf is writing something in the chat. I don't know, Gandhi, do you see the chat, or don't you?
So I read Kirsten, right? Is that the right pronunciation? Kirsten? Okay.
Yeah, Kirsten's right.
So I see that Kirsten is talking about how the model is a sustainable way to live with nature. But you need to understand that while people do grow trees, growing trees is not a new model that we have created. but we have linked it to the economy of the farmer. A poor farmer would get a certain amount of money every year from a tree. So then there is an incentive for him to grow trees. A farmer who's living in greenery, who is living in oxygen, earlier we did this mistake by telling them, why don't you grow trees which give more oxygen, give better. The farmer had no interest in it. Then we changed tracks and said, why don't you grow a tree which will give you more money? Now money was a short supply. So now they look after that tree like their own child. And they ensure that mortality of tree is extremely low. They look at it as the best way to make money. So you have to align the interest of the farmer, the interest of the country, and the interest of the climate. If you are able to align all three together, you would have a winning solution. But if it is money versus climate, then at least in the poorer sections of this country, people would prefer money than climate. So you have to align all three. And if you have to align that the increase of economy, your GDP is increasing, the government, the state government, the central government, all of them will give you some kind of incentive benefits. They will look after you. So how do you align individual, government, and global interest to get climate as a model of sustainable living?
Okay, is your question answered, Kirsten? Maybe you can give a cross into the chat or something like that. Olaf also... Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Olaf also wrote, I think that is the problem. Most of the people worldwide are not realizing that we have a climate crisis. And looking at Corona, you see the difference. The people realize the danger of the pandemic, but they still don't understand what's going on with the climate.
It is the responsibility of all of us, somebody who understands, somebody who are active, somebody who are activists, to bring to the attention of the people who are struggling on a daily life, daily problems. It's not that everyone will say, let the climate crisis come, we don't care. Nobody talks like that, but they don't understand the intensity, the magnitude of climate crisis. And it is for us to share it with them, to bring it to their attention in a very big way, so that more and more people join this struggle for existence, struggle for life. So blaming people is not the right way. I think we should blame ourselves and take up this thing that we have taken in life, that how do we bring in more attention, more visibility to this problem. That's what we need to do.
Yes, thank you. So I see you posted 2 links into the chat. I think we will link them afterwards to the map so you can have access to them. And yes, I see someone is tipping also in the chat. Oh, perfect. Kirsten said he's already put it down to the map. Yeah.
So while when we were doing the India Against Corruption movement, it was a confrontation movement against the government, because there was so much corruption happening and they wanted to do that. But after having done that, now I am working in the movement which is a constructive movement. It's a development movement which brings in more money to the poor people. So I think I have seen both sides of the movement, a confrontational and a constructive. And I believe that both of them have a space and both need to be done, maybe by different teams, different people.
Yeah, I'd like to read something from the chat as well. Gia said, as said, the decision makers can't do something because they are in and have the rules of extreme monetary, economic, international, as well as regional or local competition. How do you think to create a global mass movement alongside of created internet tools, interconnecting the power of voluntariness? In case such network tools were set up in high speed and all the people, also companies and shops could registering in which project or undertaking they want to work with a basic work time and what one needs and where this can be picked up. Yeah, that we build up a new world on this basis.
I have to explain this better because I wrote it like crazy without, how do you say, to correct it. It's quite stupid. Probably I have to explain it better. I think we have to, if there would be set up an internet networking for each region, each local basis, but also globally together, and that all the people can enter with their kind of power, what they have want to work as a kind of basic work time in which project, and that the whole world is prepared virtually in the computer, and so we can switch off the monetary world system from one moment to the other, and then on the very existential do almost only renaturations, mainly.
Yeah, you need to forgive me if I say something which you might not agree, but I have certain view on what you are saying. The internet is a tool, and it only amplifies an activity, and it also is a tool to bring together people, but leading them in a certain way, and unless you have a mass of people together, you can do this guerrilla warfare. You can go and attack once, you can go and attack from here, but if you want to fight this battle, which is going to be a long drawn one and with global ramifications, you need very large numbers of people, and you need feet on the ground. It cannot just be fought on the internet. It cannot just be fought on the digital media. The digital media would help you bring in volunteers. The digital media would help in spreading the word why it is necessary. Today, the youth are ready for this because the youth are in a very bad state. There is so much unemployment. There is so much anger. How do you mobilize that youth and give it a direction in a certain way, in a non-violent, constructive manner, to fight against this entire thing? So there is, I see this as not a one-time, two-time strike that we can do, or a digital strike that we can do. We will have to have thousands and thousands of feet on the ground coming and stopping the traffic, sitting on hunger strike, willing to take anything that the police hits to them. That is going to bring sympathy. Let them. I have gone to jail so many times. So unless you go to jail, people imprison you, they do something, till then the whole blast will not happen. Till then it will be a very safety, a small group of people doing things. That also is necessary. I am not reducing the impact of that, but this global war has to be fought on the ground, and we need feet on the ground. All the other things that are there are all supportive, whether it's the tactics, whether it's the strategy, whether it's the operations, all these are supportive of that, but real fight has to be on the ground. And that, I think, mobilizing people like we saw the kind of people that came for Greta's meeting, and the whole social media was full of that. That group of people needs to do beyond that meeting. They need to sit down for 3 days. They need to block the whole world. That is going to bring attention. And I think I cannot see a better group than yours which can do that.
Thank you. That was very motivating, I think. Also, Kerstin got a Wortmeldung. I'm sorry, wants to say something. Maybe I can read out Jess' answer. Yeah, you are very right, but the global networks have the power to connect the volunteerness of the people even globally. For the first time in human history, we have another organizational tool which makes the monetary means obsolete. So the task is to connect the people on the ground with networking, not only via the digital systems.
I agree with you completely. This is the way forward. But somebody will have to draw the map. Where are we going? What is the short term? What is the medium term? What is the game plan? And based on that, what you are saying very rightly, use these tools to connect the people on the ground. And once they are connected, then what do they do? We don't just want to connect people and keep it at that. The people need to come and demonstrate that we are angry, we don't want this world, we want a different world. And if they come in sufficient numbers, believe you me, lot of countries and a lot of policy makers will have to rethink their decisions and the way they take them, and to involve some of these people in decision-making processes. So what you are saying is so right, and those are the tools where you can bring volunteers, you can bring volunteer on the ground, but having brought them, like Greta brought in hundreds of thousands, but what do they do after that has not been thought through. And if unless you think that through, that what do you do in January, what do you do in February, what do you do in April, how do you bring people, what action will they take, will it be a global, will it be local, will it be national, will it be so all this needs to be thought through beautifully, and in a mode which is agitational, which is confrontational, but still non-violent. So that's a big challenge before XR. I'm sure you must be thinking about it. I'm an outsider who's coming and giving advice, which is not a good thing to do. But because I have experience of movements, I have experience of hundreds of thousands of people rallying behind us. So which is why I wanted to say that.
Yes, Kerstin just withdraw his question. Yeah, my tongue is sometimes not used to English, I'm sorry. Yeah, he said it has been just answered right now. So
Okay.
And Jaya said, we need this global movement to set this focus, to give up monetary means as a starting point to recreate and green the world. Yes.
I agree with you completely. A strategy needs to be drawn out. A global strategy needs to be drawn out. And we need to start moving as fast as possible. The monetary world is no competition, no match for the will of the people. If the will of the people we are able to create, no government, no monetary considerations can stop that. But how do you bring the will of the people? That needs some good strategy.
I also think we should, if I call the global hack team, to make like an open source project where everybody builds up such a world map, and that or this mass movement can be aligned on this alongside this map, but not only on this map, also person to person. Each person we don't need monetary means or organizational tools in between 100 people. These can be organized from person to person, but one of 100 people should have an internet access so that we can to have an interconnection to the whole world. And yeah, we need such a tool, and then to create the movement on this alongside as well, not only protesting, but also rebuilding the world.
Absolutely. Only that in my life, I've been now 40 years in different kind of agitations. Never has any agitation failed because of lack of money. There are more than enough good people who will support you financially to create the tools to bring in people.
Yes, we see. Oh, there's Doro. Hello, and now he's back. She's back. Yeah, Jess said love to India. I would agree this. And I see there are different people also writing something in the chat. If you like, you can also just post a star and to lift your hand and to sign you want to say something. Yes. Yeah. Gandhi wrote love to the rest of the world. We are all one. Yes. I'm very happy you are here and we got this talk. It's very inspiring and also.
I'm happy to be amongst you.
Yeah.
I see such wonderful people. Wherever I go, I see such wonderful people who want to fight for others, who want to fight for nature, who want to fight for the world. It's such an elevating feeling to meet people like all of you. I'm so happy to be here. And I love you all.
Yeah, thank you. I will read out Olaf wrote, sometimes I think the Western communities are not feeling the pain because most of the people are very satisfied with their lives as it is. They still don't understand what groups like Greenpeace, XR, etc. try to highlight.
I agree with you, but more and more people will start realizing as nature starts acting against us. But having said that, the poor are the ones who are facing the maximum brunt, and they understand what is happening. The rich may understand it intellectually, but they don't feel it. They don't feel it in their heart. It's not a question of their existence. But the poor's life is dependent on nature, on climate. Especially when I work in the rural areas of the country, I look at everything is dependent. There is no rainwater storage. It is all dependent on monsoon. It is all dependent on so many factors which they do not control. Which is why they all go to the temple and pray and say, God, you are the one who is giving us the climate. Please take care of us this year. So really, it's a very tough life for them. They are completely dependent on nature. People in Western countries, developed areas, rich people, do not have so much interaction with nature, except they say it's a windy day, it's a cold day. So I think beyond that, the impact of nature is not felt in their lives. So intellectually they may understand, but they will not feel it. So you'll have to look at people who are feeling this. The poorer of the who are dependent on nature, they understand what they are going through. Bring them together. Large number of people all over the world are there.
Kirsten, you also got a question? Go forward.
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree that a lot of people don't feel the pain that that already happening to poor people, and I think there needs to be some personal connection, and you need to really get the people to know the people, not only watch the news to get the feeling for this. Being in XR, I have we have a nice opportunity to sometimes talk to people with their problems in other countries, and even for us, sometimes it is hard to really grasp what's happening in other people on an emotional level. Do you have any ideas how we could maybe intensify this contact or make it more accessible to more people?
I'm not very sure if I have understood the question, but let me try and explain. How do we connect to people who are not getting too much affected by nature? Is that what your question is?
My own personal experience was we don't connect to the news, we connect to people. So right. Seeing people and talking people who are affected is much more effective than watching the news. And my question is, do you see any way how we could intensify the connection between, for example, people in India and people in Europe in a way that they can really emotionally understand it?
I would think that if, let's say, if I was XR Germany, or if I was XR something in Europe, then I would come to India, and I and you can travel across the rural India, connecting to people, bringing them together to make them understand it's not just their concern, it's the concern of the world. The whole world is fighting this. I can come to Germany and meet your people. So the whole world needs to connect to each other electronically, digitally, and physically. So let's come to first. I think the first thing we need to do is create a world strategy, a global strategy to fight this. Look at who are the actors who are going to do that, and more people will come and join the movement, and more responsibility will be taken. But first we need to draw a map about where we are and where we need to go and what is the timelines. And then it has to be flexible and we can do course correction. But that thought which is going to make this possible has to be a very pure, very well thought out, unsullied thought process. That if we do, then the rest will follow. How do we reach out? What do we do? What are the tools to do? How will the world come together? I am telling you, this world has more than enough people who are worried with the climate crisis, who are daily facing the problems and the hardship because of this climate crisis. The people are waiting for leadership, waiting for people to come together, and the time is now. There is no time to waste. We need to move. The faster we move, the better we move, and the better leadership that we take, the better this world is going to be. Else we are sliding down in a very, because the changes that we are making, the XR or the activist, is very incremental compared to the size of the problem. So if you look at the problem is increasing multifold, and our solution is piecemeal, incremental, small. It has to be holistic. It has to be integrated, and it has to be huge. The dimensions of the solution has to be much bigger than the problem.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to read out what Olaf also posted in the chat. He said, yes, we are growing worldwide, but we have to change so much in the next years. My fear is that our time runs out. Yeah.
We are on a branch and the lion is coming close to eating us. So let's not just die without fighting it. Let's fight it and hope that we can kill the lion. But you are right, the problem is too large and our action is too small. We need to really increase the size. But we will not die without fighting it. Trust me, Olaf, all of us are there to fight this climate crisis, even though it may take over us, but we will go down fighting.
Yes, there's some Zustimmung, agreement. Yeah, yeah, do you wanted to say something? You unmuted you?
Yeah, I wanted to say it's great, yeah, and we have this big time pressure, and I also think we have this, things can go very quickly now through the world. We have this there was this ice bucket, and then there was, in 1 second, it went around the world, and all the people knew this awareness, or that we can do something. It was a quite stupid thing, or let's say it was okay. But now we can, this awareness that we can recreate this world can also go around very fastly. Then we can shut down all the industry very fastly. We can green the world very fastly and living of the very essential. It can happen very fastly all. And I think we have to do it and to focus on this. Yeah.
If humans bring their will together and come together, rapid changes can take place. But we need to do that, and we need to do that very quickly. I agree, Jia, with you completely. There's no time to lose. Can I make one suggestion?
Yeah.
You know, when, and I will say it out of experience, when we created this huge movement of India against corruption, we had multiple issues. We had poverty, we had population, we had so many things. And there were so many not-for-profit organizations, good people like you, activists, and all of them had their own subjects which they were handling. They were fighting against prostitution, somebody was fighting against something else for food. So instead of that, we took one subject against corruption. And we created a law. If that law is passed, then corruption in India will reduce. So we took 1 point agenda and everyone rallied around that point. Everyone could have their own agenda separately. But on this agenda of corruption, the whole country came together and we fought. Similarly, for climate, we must take up one single point, not so many, because then it gets diffused. And then we are distracted and we are talking about everything. Somebody is talking about something, somebody is talking about plastic, somebody is talking about a lot of other things. If we can take one issue and create a policy or a document which gives a solution in a large way, and the whole world rallies around them and pushes all government to pass that law, that one law which will be there across all governments of the world, that is the way to create a movement. All other things that you do, digital, movement, feet on the ground, are all things to strengthen that aspect. But you have to have that single focal point on which everyone comes together. Like you can have light which will light up this room, but if you want to take that same light and make it into a laser, then you can do an operation also and heal people. So that laser has to be created. Easier said than done, but I think that that's a challenge that we need to think about.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd like to ask whether the people who haven't said something yet, maybe if there's someone who'd like to ask something or say something.
I think we have run out of questions.
Yeah, could also be. Yes, looking at the time, maybe we got yeah, approximately 10 minutes left. Let's have a look. I think if there's anything you'd like to share or say or ask, and yeah.
Today we were doing, we were shooting some of the farmers, being not the gun shooting, but the video shooting, and asking them how their lives have transformed because of the planting that they have done of trees. And when we heard their stories, they were so moving. Some of us cried when we heard that. So these people are so connected to nature and so connected to water, meaning that whole area was barren. And when we brought in this water, so when we created these rivers and dams and things like that, because you know, for water you need to understand that you have to get the running water to start walking, getting the walking water to stop, and getting the stop water to percolate into the ground. But once we were able to do that and get the water table from 500 feet below the aquifers to 25 feet in 1 year, suddenly the whole life changed. They used to get water through tankers. Last year, in front of my eyes, one young boy got crushed under the water tanker. And the kind of misery, this is all avoidable misery which can be changed and which is the driving force of our lives. But once the water came, then the plants started coming up, the grass started growing, trees started growing, the birds came, the fish came in the water, there were butterflies. The whole earth came to life. And that is what today the farmers were saying, that you have created together a new world, a world which they had not seen for so many years. Now that's the world we have lost, and that's the world we have to regain. And water and trees are going to be a crucial factor, but there is much more than just that. There is far more to ecology and to climate than this, and we have an obligation to our future, obligation to the world which we are living. I sometimes say that in jest, that when I go up, God is going to ask me, what did I do? How much did I exploit and how much did I give back to the world? So he is going to look at my balance sheet. So before I go up, I need to create a good balance sheet so that he does not kick me into hell. I'm just joking. But I think all of us should be aware that we need to create a balance sheet which is in the positive and not the way it is right now.
Yeah, difficult question to ask what I've done in this time. I see there are some shared notes in the shared note area. I don't know who wrote it down, but it's a project which goes beyond XR, and it's in a starting phase, but it's worth to support and to push, is said there, and it's a movement of movements, a global network. Yeah, maybe you can have a look into this because it's very long, and maybe afterwards. Yeah, but we are facing the last 5 minutes, so.
I can respond to this. I just had a look at what you are saying. Thank you. I think your words are very, very well, they are touching my heart. But this is not what XR is doing. You're right, that's a project which goes beyond XR. And it is not my proposal to say that XR should adopt this movement. It's a movement that people can adopt. But XR's role is to bring in attention to the climate crisis and the climate catastrophe, and to bring in legislature, to bring in policies which is going to fight against this approaching issues. And like I said, there are multiple approaches to do that, to fight the climate crisis. One approach is what I'm doing now, which is to create a better world, to do my best to plant millions of trees. That's one approach, to bring in the communities together, social justice, equality, solidarity, empowerment. That is another game. What you are doing is very important. But because I have done this, I used to be part of a confrontational movement, and I have just in 2015 I quit that movement. But I've seen what works there and what does not work there. And I look at XR as a multiple size of that movement. It can be. I see the potential of the whole world coming together for one single thing, for one single legislature, for one thing. Together, the whole world can come together. So I see a potential of that kind of a feet on the ground, using the latest technologies, using media, using amplifying tools. So this is extremely necessary. What I am doing need not be in XR, but I am also XR. I may not be a paid member or a non-paid member or a volunteer of XR, but my sentiments are with you. And if there is any which way that I could be of help to you, I'll be very happy to do that, because it's an extremely necessary activity. The agitation, the confrontation is necessary, and all tools need to be used to take us forward in this.
Yes, thank you. It's like a good motivation, to speak for the next wave we are facing now. I've seen Jaya also wanted to say something, and yeah, Kirsten agrees, definitely. And yeah,
I just wanted to say it's a very important XR movement, and they have great principles, and they did mainly focus on protesting. Now we also have not only to focus on protesting, but also to rebuild the world, which will probably and can probably also collapse every moment with the financial system or due to other disruptive events like a drastic temperature rise or so. But yeah, and we need also to get unions and people who are companies, shops, solidaric agriculture or all kind of agriculture. We need the workers and the employees and even the industrials, and that we recreate the world in a way that we save ourselves, because and the only solution is, and that's the problem, is that this awareness must become like an explosion to the world. We have to give up the monetary means, getting out of the competition, coming together as people and as the world with this act and with love, and then on the basis of togetherness to recreate the world. Yeah.
I will end with one small poetry said by one of India's great Sufi poets. In Hindi, he said, "Mati kahe kumbhar se tu kya ronde mohe, ek din aisa aayega main rondungi toi," which means that the soil is telling the potter that what can you need me, how can you destroy me? There will be a day when I will destroy you. I think that time is come when nature is ready to destroy us. We have destroyed nature enough. And I really want to reiterate that the worldview that was there in India of Advaita or being one with nature needs to come back. We need to start looking at people, looking at animals, looking at soil, looking at everything as part of us. The minute we do that, all problems will be solved. When we look at them as separate from us, as things to be exploited, that is when the problem begins. I thank you, all of you, to listen to me so carefully, and I hope we can keep on meeting. I hope I can be of any help to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very, very great you were joining us, and yeah, thank you.
Thank
also
you.
for your work. Yeah.
Greetings to India again.
Namaste. Namaste means I go to the soul in you. So I go to the soul in all of you. Thank you.
How is this called?
Yeah. Have a good time, everyone. And hope we are meeting again.
Can I disconnect?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.